Good morning, everybody. How are you? I'm late. Went to the bakery and found out they didn't have anything. Had to come back. Lucy wasn't happy about the long walk. She's tired now. So am I. Okay, let's get on with this, shall we? All right. First thing up is the shooter in Canada. They know who he is. He's dead. This kid's serious mental problems apparently, and I don't know how. Some of the stuff. Sometimes you can see this stuff. The average individual can see it. But apparently, what happens with these kids, and it appears to be on a pretty regular basis, they don't pay attention to their kids. So when you don't pay attention to your kids, you don't notice changes in your child. All right, teachers aren't paying attention that they should, because they don't notice the changes in a child. You know, some are good or some are bad, but you should recognize the changes, and they seem to only recognize the good channels changes. And they can't, or they just feel that they can't be bothered. It's the parents' job. That's got to change. All right. You know, otherwise, there's going to be more school shootings, and that's just not good for anybody. All right, because Trump uses it against people and the school systems and everything else, and that's just not the way it's supposed to be done, right? Okay. Now, when this was another story. When Trump brought RFK into the fold, so to speak, and made him the health Secretary of Health and Welfare, something like that. But he's in charge of your health care. And he said it's going to be better, everything's going to be better, everything's going to be, he's the best thing I could have possibly done. He'll be really good for it. And as of late, nobody likes the guy. The guy is a failure. He's causing problems, not creating good conditions. He's creating bad conditions. Measles are on the rise. Other diseases are on the rise because he's an anti-vaccinator. And vaccinations have worked for this country for 100 years, and or you know, going back to smallpox and stuff like that. You know, and then he's just saying, no, we don't need that anymore. We use what they call a herd immunity, and that will work sometimes, but not all the time. It doesn't work under certain conditions, and he's a moron. All right, he's a really, truly moron. He's not intelligent. I mean, he's a black sheep of he's the purple sheep of the Kennedy clan. You know, he doesn't even rate black sheep status because he's just not very smart that way. You know, and some of the things that come out of his mouth are figments of his imagination. All right. He's another one that seems to operate on the whim, you know. Well, this sounds like a good idea. Let's try that. And that's what Trump's problem is, you know, and that's our problem now. All right. The lesbian gay community went and put a flag back up on that monument, Stonewall. I think that's the name of it. I hope I'm right. I don't want to be insulting because I have a lot of gay friends. And I'm proud of them. I really am. They put a flag back up. The pride flag. They put it back up. And I'm sure they're going to hear from Trump and there's going to be problems and whatnot. But these people seem determined to screw with him, and that's fine with me. I just don't want anybody hurt. You know, this is a really supportive thing they're doing. This is a really great thing that I think they're doing, and it's showing that they can. You know, you just can't push these people around anymore. They have low tolerance. You know, so that's about it. In the meantime, I say in the meantime, the flag is back. We'll see what's going to happen with that. I hope so. All right. Jobs. Well, you got an increase in jobs, but then I heard that the jobs that the people were expecting that they lost because of immigration reforms aren't coming back. They aren't there, and that I understand. You know, if they're there, there's nobody wants those jobs, because those were jobs for the most part, unless you were a scientist or something, and then we don't deport those people because they're beneficial to Trump's administration. So it's the smaller people, the manual labor jobs and whatnot that they're getting these people for, and it's they're not hiring. They don't want their job. White people don't want the job. Of course they don't want the jobs. What the hell do you think we imported people for in the first place? Why do you think we have immigrants in the country doing some manual labor jobs? Because Americans don't want to do it. You know, I told you what happened when I was hiring people. All right, the standard rate back when I was doing this job as a kitchen manager, a long time ago, was around, you could get $3 an hour was a lot of money for a busboy because it's plus tips. All right, they got to share everybody's tips. Okay, this busboy wanted $10 an hour plus tips. Now, there are some country clubs that pay that kind of money, but 99.9% of the restaurants didn't do it. I told the kid flat out, I said, if you can get that kind of money, I'll quit my job and go to work with you. You know? And I meant it. It's not a feasible pay scale. You'd be making more than the waitresses. Waitresses were making $2.01 an hour back then. And he wanted more than 3 times what they were making. Close to 5 times what they were making plus tips. Doesn't happen. I said, why did you bother coming here? You know? It ain't gonna happen, son. But that's, you know, why they're not hiring people back for those jobs, because nobody wants them. And a lot of the jobs aren't going to be there anymore anyhow, because the economy is in the toilet. Okay. Next up. I have no... Oh, I know what that one is. The tariffs 1 year later. Now, ladies and gentlemen, people are admitting to the fact that the foreign companies aren't paying these tariffs. You are. Okay? And you're paying it in higher retail prices for your products. But they say inflation's down. Well, I don't know how they're gauging inflation, because if I go to the supermarket and it's costing me more money than it did last year, how is inflation down? Well, I'll tell you why. Because they're not lowering the prices. They're keeping them up there for the profit margin. They love that profit margin. That's the thing. You know, I've worked in a lot of supermarkets, and you have a sale, and the sale isn't a sale. You know, when you figure out the price, the sale isn't a sale. So that's that. So you're paying for it, folks. And if you got any balls at all, you'd go out there and not buy stuff. You know, start boycotting. Although I know it's difficult because Trump's smart, because he puts tariffs on essentials rather than luxury items. You know, even a car is actually an essential item. I mean, where I lived in New Jersey, It wasn't a bus route. You only had the only buses you had were from Port Authority, New York, out to Jersey. So that, so if you wanted to take a taxi, it was like $25 to go from my house to the railroad station in Morristown, or to my doctor's office in Morristown. You know, and they always went the long way. And they always went the long way. The short way would be to take 287 down and get off 287 and come back a little bit on the local road. No, they went all the way over there on local roads. So even if they were metered, it cost you more money. They weren't really taxi services; they were limousine services. So like, you didn't use them unless you had to. So you needed a car because you couldn't walk to anything. Well, I could, but you're not walking home with groceries. Not from where the stores were, And Congress shut down. I'm sure he didn't shut it down because of Valentine's Day, because he has no love in his heart for anybody. But the Congress, and my question is, how do you know it's shut down? They don't do anything when they're there. They haven't done anything in a year, really, except rubber stamp whatever Trump wants. They haven't come up with any creative solutions to anything. So I don't know. That's that for that bit of stuff, So, what do? They're shut down. And it seems that any kind of important legislation that can go against Trump and his plans, the Congress shuts down. Now, they make me sick because they're still getting paid. Okay? And that's one of the rules that has to be changed. When there's a shutdown, Congress doesn't get paid. Okay? I don't know whether they get a federal salary or if it's a state salary. They pay them but from the state because they represent the state. They represent the people. But if the federal government's paying the people that are doing the voting for us, that's not really a good thing either, is it? I don't know. I don't understand all that stuff. It's, for years, when everything's going right, there's no problems with Congress. When it's operating the way it's supposed to operate. But the last 10 plus years, it hasn't operated the way it's supposed to be operating. It's become extremely partisan or political, whichever way you want to put it. And I'm really, 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 really pissed off about that, but there's nothing I can do about it. And I'm not in the country, so people tell me you don't have the right to talk about it because you're not there. Well, I'm talking about it anyhow. I'm talking about it because down here I don't have any restrictions on me yet about what I can and cannot talk about, Okay, it's Friday the 13th. Now, Friday the 13th is for people in America, a very superstitious day. Kids when I was in high school would panic. It's Friday the 13th. Two things about Friday the 13th that was the best thing that could happen to me in school, all right? I aced exams, tests, anything. Because everything was based on a curve because of the superstitions people had. They So I would take a test, and let's say I was going to get a B on it. I'd come out with an A+ on the exam. or if I turned in a term paper on that day. Now, I don't know what the grade would have been if I turned it in on another day, but if I turn it in on that day and it's graded that day, I get A's on it. That's just the way it was. Friday the 13th was a very lucky day for me. You know, I don't know whether you want to call it luck or just the fact that I didn't believe in the Friday the 13th stuff that made it so much better for me. I have other superstitions. Don't get me wrong. I'm not superstition free. But this particular day worked to my benefit, no matter what I was really doing, you know. Not necessarily a great day for my love life, but you're dealing with another person at that point in time, and that other person could be really fucked up about Friday the 13th, and it's just, you know, you're not, and then it just become not a day you want to talk to each other. So anyhow, go hit the subscribe button. It's Friday the 13th. I should get 50 subscribers today because it's Friday the 13th. Go ahead, hit that button, folks, all right? And I will talk to you mañana.